He told us that towards the end of time, you will see the people of the ala, reshare yatatawaluna fil bunyan. He said there will be poor people who were the desert people, and they were poor, and they were taking care of goats and animals, and then they'll begin to build huge buildings. These are signs before your very eyes. We're seeing signs of our Prophet ﷺ. He told us that you will see the buildings of Mecca reach the mountaintops. The buildings of Mecca will reach the mountaintops. And this is happening in our lifetime. When I first went to Mecca, there were no buildings even close to the tops of the mountains of Mecca. And now it's filled with buildings that are beginning to reach the mountaintops. I was on one of the tallest mountains in Mecca, and you can see the clock tower now surpasses the mountains. The Prophet ﷺ said in a hadith, he said, إِذَا رَأَيْتُم مَكَّةَ بُعِجَتْ كَضَائِمًا. If you see Mecca, if you see its mountains with holes pierced through them, this is what it means. بُعِجَتْ كَضَائِمًا وَيَتَسَاوَى بُنْيَانُهَا رُؤُوسَ جِبَالِهَا. And you see the buildings reach or in a riwayah ta'lu, they will actually surpass the mountaintops. And then he said, فَقَدْ أَظَلَّتَ السَّاعَةُ. It means that the sa'a has cast its shadow. Imam As-Suyuti says in this, هِيَ عِبَارَةٌ عَنْ دُنُوَ السَّاعَةِ. It means that the hour is near, it's coming close.
In fact, in all of these we see pointers towards a scientific and technological revolution which would sweep the world. And the mastermind behind that scientific and technological revolution is the Antichrist. We were sitting in the masjid, and the Prophet ﷺ is sitting with us. And a man enters the masjid, he's dressed in all white, his hair is all black, but no one knew him. Well, he had to be a traveler, musafir, coming out of the desert, because no one knew him. Medina is small. Well, if he's coming out of the desert, he'll have dust on his clothing, and dust on his eyebrows, and dust on his beard. In those days we used to have beards. But this man is spotlessly clean. So this is a puzzle. This is something strange. Who is he? It's mysterious. It's mystifying. It turns out, eventually we learned that this was Jibreel alayhi salam. And Allah sent him in human form in front of everybody. It's the first time in history that Jibreel alayhi salam appears in human form in front of a whole gathering. Never before. First time. And he came to ask 5 questions. And they're divided into 2 parts. In the first part, he asked what is Islam and what is Iman and what is Al-Ihsan. But in the second part, he asked, when will the last hour come? And what are the signs of the last hour? In answer to the first question, when will the last hour come? He replied and said, the one who is being questioned has no more knowledge than the one who is questioning. I mean, I know who you are, and I know what you know. And then came the last question. What are the signs of the last day? The last day is different from the last hour. The last hour will come like the twinkling of an eye, so suddenly, and that's it. And the entire material universe will be transformed into something different. غَيْرَ الْأَرْضِ, it says, غَيْرَ الْأَرْضِ وَالسَّمَاوَاتِ, something different. But before that, there is another end, and that's the end of history. The first sign of the two was very easy to understand and to recognize. We didn't need a PhD from MIT. That the naked, barefooted shepherds would be competing with each other in the construction of tall buildings. My building is taller than yours. Oh, no, 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 no. We got the tallest one of all in Dubai. Oh, no. We in Jeddah, we're coming with one taller than you in Dubai. Huh?
So, he gave a precise people who are going to be doing a precise action. And I want you to understand something. There are two types of Arabs. There are city dwellers who live in great cities like Damascus, Alexandria, Cairo, Yemen, Sana'a. They live in these sort of places. And there's another type of Arab, a destitute Arab, known as the Bedouin Arabs. The Bedouin Arabs at the time of the Prophet and before the Prophet and after the Prophet, even until the 1950s, were poor, uneducated, illiterate, and generally people who were cut off from the rest of the world. Now, if the Prophet wanted to make a prediction which was going to be self-fulfilling, he should have said, the Persians are going to compete with each other to build tall buildings. Why? Because the Persian capital, Ctesiphon, was the biggest city in the world. Or he should have said, the Romans are going to compete with each other, the Byzantines are going to compete with each other for tall buildings. Why? Because Hagia Sophia was the tallest building on earth for centuries. The Prophet Muhammad, if he wanted a self-fulfilling prophecy, he should not have said the Bedouin Arabs. He should have said the other nations. Plus, here's the thing. It does. Because they are people who don't have wealth. And until the 1950s, before we discovered the black gold of oil, these same people did not have access to the wealth to build tall buildings. Now the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, he did not like tall buildings. He did not like extravagant buildings. In fact, he actually told Muslims not to do that. There is verses of the Quran which talk about the vanity of building buildings. So if he wanted a self-fulfilling prophecy, he should have said the city-dwelling Arabs are going to build buildings to compete with each other. And to couple this, he should have encouraged them to build tall buildings. But he didn't do that. He spoke about a poor group. And two, he told people not to build tall buildings. So the self-fulfilling prophecy or the reverse-engineered prophecy doesn't make sense. And I'm going to give you a reference here. There is a book published called Arabian Sands. This book, I've forgotten the name of the author, but it's called Arabian Sands, published by Penguin. And this book is written by a British explorer, Wilfred something, when he was traveling through these Bedouin areas in the 1940s. Read that book and look what he says about the Bedouins. Look what he says about how poor they were, about the way they actually lived. The Bedouin Arabs, they were unaffected by the golden age of Islam. When the Arabs, along with the Persians and the rest of the Muslim world, were at the forefront of the world in terms of science and education, the Bedouin Arabs were living in the same way as before, milking camels and eating dates and going to war. They were doing the same thing they were doing at that time. After the golden age, when we had, after the Umayyads, after the Abbasids, when we had the Ottoman period, when we had the Ottoman Empire, when the Ottomans, the Ottoman Turks, when they controlled a large mass of the world, when they were the rulers of the Muslims, the Bedouin Arabs were living in the exact same way that they were living before. So this group of people, from every counterfactual way, from every falsification way, when you try and check that, there is no way that if the Prophet wanted a self-fulfilling prophecy or a reverse-engineered prophecy, he should have made other guesses.
It's very simple, that you would easily understand that the people who are impressed by tall buildings, and the tall buildings is a symbol of progress. And if kampung, for our listeners in Britain and France, kampung means a village. If kampung doesn't have any tall buildings, then kampung is backward. So leave kampung and head for where the tall buildings are. This is the sign of a person whose intellectual acumen is that of a naked, barefooted shepherd. What do you mean? I got my PhD from MIT and you telling me? Yes, that's what we're saying. That you now equate tall buildings with progress. You no longer consider what is in the heart to see, is he a man who speaks the truth? He never tells lies. I want you to recognize that Britain was the leader of the world in the technology which led to all of this. I present all of this information to you to argue the case that the island in the hadith of Tamim ad-Dari is the island of Britain. And so my answer is that that island of Tamim ad-Dari is Britain.